Wow, just look at that. Okay, hey Doug, answer me a question. The bay is being sucked out. Why? If it's, I don't understand.
Because the hurricane, Becca, is turning counterclockwise, and inside of the hurricane is a low pressure area. All right, and so it's acting like a vacuum cleaner. It's sucking that water up and it's funneling it up. It's pushing the water up into the wind that's being generated by the hurricane, and it's being blown out. That's why all that rain that you see that comes with hurricanes, and they're predicting 55 inches of rain from this thing, that's where it comes from. It's
Why?
getting sucked up by the hurricane itself.
So it's in the air. The water out of the bay is in the air?
It's well, some of it, Becca. Some of it is where, as it's being drawn out, the sea level out in the Gulf out there is raising. I mean, it's acting like a big vacuum cleaner, and it's drawing it out like this right here to the center of the hurricane, and what it can pick up is being forced out, but you still have that water being drawn to the hurricane, and as the hurricane moves, the water's moving with it.
Wow.
And then that's the reason you have tidal surge whenever you have a hurricane come in, is all that water gets pushed back in ahead of it that's got sucked out to it. And the more powerful the hurricane is, the greater amount of water that it's going to suck up to it. It's acting sort of like a vacuum cleaner. And so as it's moving, that water that got drawn up to it, the elevation of it's higher. And as it comes in, you get this tidal surge where all that water comes in land, and you get all this, flooding and and not to mention all that rain. And the rain starts falling out of it. Now there's rain ahead of it, but the real rain is associated with the storm itself, and it starts falling out when it reaches land, because now it doesn't really have that source of water to suck up anymore. So then you just start having the rain coming out of it, and because of the clouds that's been created around it from where it did suck all that water up. It keeps growing bigger and bigger and bigger, and clouds forming around it, and that's where all that moisture is, all that water that is sucked up. And then when it reaches land, that water begins to fall out. And then you get a whole lot of wind damage, because for one, you figure if you got all this moisture associated with it and these real high winds, the kinetic energy of that water does a lot of damage. I mean, they're predicting a really, it's going to be devastating for Florida.
Well, you heard what that newscaster said.
Yeah, well,
how was that even allowed to be said like that?
Well, I mean, some people don't have no coof, Becca, but I mean, you got to get people's attention and warn them that, hey, this is not something to play around with. You need to evacuate the coast, because if you don't, you're going to die. I mean, and there's no telling how much damage will be done. I mean, when that thing first initially comes in, I mean, because, they're saying 155 mile an hour winds, and which is right at the edge of being a category 5, and if it gets up over that, it's going to be a category 5, and them category 5s have been known, like Andrew had over 200 mile an hour winds.
Wow.
So I mean, and it went across Florida like a buzzsaw, and I mean, basically destroyed that place down there below Miami. I can't remember the name of it. Down there where there was an Air Force base down there. I mean, it basically destroyed that Air Force base.
Not near Avon Park, right?
I don't know.
That's 30 miles outside of Miami.
That's been a long time ago, so I can't.
I have family that lives
there. Homestead Air Force Base, and Homestead, the town. I mean, it just wiped it out pretty much. And
wow.
Well, I don't want to throw blame at people and stuff like that, but when you develop up the coast and you destroy all the dunes and all of the plants and stuff that were there that kind of helped to buffer against that, and you put up all these buildings and stuff like that, I mean, and so you make it so that these things not only hit the coast, but they go further and further inland, and I mean, because there's always been hurricanes, but the destructive power of them hadn't been as great because they could only make so far inland. Now they're going further and further inland because of the destruction of forest and natural barriers that were there that kind of helped to mitigate it. Now it's I mean, they go further and further inland, and it's only and because they're more powerful, I mean, they tend to be getting more and more intense as time goes on.
Well,
I mean, I never heard of no storms like that. I mean, there was some bad ones, Hurricane Hazel and
this is Ian.
Yep.
Hurricane Ian. Wow. Yeah. Okay, well, that's a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't live on the coast.
Everyone, please be safe. It's involved with this
I mean,
Hurricane
I'd say listen
Ian.
to the people and get out, get away from the coast and go inland, or evacuate. Because this thing's going to be really powerful, and the storm surge off of it's going to be pretty bad. I mean, ain't no telling how high that storm surge is liable to be. So the whole coastline is going to get flooded.
Wow. All right, love you, treasures, and we'll see you on the next one. Remember, you're all beautiful.